Okay. Please don't open anything weird. Okay. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. This will be attempt number 8, chapter 6. Chapter 6. Let me not get lost here. 167. Okay. So chapter 6 is well, we're talking about a lot of different things, but one of the things that we're talking about in the notes um and with the case study in question is can someone tell automatically if a baby is just a bad baby or what is going on? And so in our example, we have Uncle Rico who has decided that he can tell. So it says, Uncle Rico told me he could tell whether a baby was evil because the baby cried when he got close. I would respectfully disagree based on what we've learned in chapter 6 so far about social and emotional development in infancy. Hopefully you can see all my notes because this, like I said, is my 8th try. The first concept that applies is stranger anxiety, sometimes called stranger wariness. In the professor's notes, stranger anxiety is described as a fear of unfamiliar adults that many infants and toddlers experience. The notes explain that whether a child shows stranger anxiety depends on several factors, including the child's temperament, previous experiences with strangers, and the situation in which the baby and the stranger meet. So that's very interesting. The notes also explain that encounters with strangers create two competing feelings in babies, the desire to approach and the desire to avoid. So the infant's behavior depends on the balance between those two feelings. Because of this, a baby crying when someone approaches is often showing a normal developmental response rather than making a judgment about that person. The textbook supports this idea as well. So I'm going to show you here. Hopefully you can see my screen because, like I said, I've tried this so many times. But here are the professor's notes, and it talks about stranger anxiety, fear of unfamiliar adults, their temperament, their past experiences, exactly what I've already brought up. Here in the book, we are looking at 2 different pages for my situation here, and those are page 167. And let me get down here a little bit. And I have this personality also develops from temperament in other ways. As children mature, biologically, temperamental characteristics emerge, and a newborn is not capable of much self-control, but they slowly start to get that sense of security from their parent. Okay. The textbook refers to stranger wariness. This means that babies become cautious or fearful among unfamiliar adults as part of normal emotional development. Therefore, a baby crying when Uncle Rico approaches would not be an evidence that that baby is evil. It would be much more likely that the baby is responding to an unfamiliar person. A second concept that applies is temperament. So according to the textbook, the temperament refers to the innate characteristics of an infant, including mood, activity level, and emotional reactivity. The textbook describes three general temperament types identified by Thomas and Chess. Easy children adapt quickly to new situations and are generally positive. Difficult children react negatively and intensely to new situations. Slow to warm up children address slowly and may appear shy or cautious around unfamiliar people. If Uncle Rico approaches 2 different babies, one baby might smile and the other one might cling to their parent. That difference tells us more about the baby's temperament than it does about whether the child is good or bad. The professor's notes reinforce this point by explaining that temperament reflects stable individual differences in emotional reactions and behavior. Some infants are naturally more fearful, while others are more outgoing. That means that 2 babies can react very differently to the exact same person and situation. Another concept from the professor's notes is social referencing. Social referencing occurs when babies look to a trusted caregiver to determine how they should react to an uncertain situation. For example, if a baby looks at a parent and sees a calm and happy expression, the baby might feel more safe. So if the parent appears nervous or concerned or whatever, the baby might become more fearful because babies use their trusted caregivers as their reference guide. So, in conclusion, I would disagree with Uncle Rico's claims that crying babies are evil. Both the professor's notes and the textbooks suggest that babies' reactions are more likely to be explained by normal stranger anxiety, temperamental differences, and social referencing. These behaviors are a healthy and expected part of social and emotional development during infancy and toddlerhood, not evidence of a baby's moral character. Again, hopefully this worked this time because, like I said, this was my 8th attempt on chapter 6. I'm not sure what's going on, but literally every time I do Zoom, it works differently. My computer saves it to a different strange spot. It saves it in 2 different sections. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing wrong or why it takes me so many tries each time I do a lesson. Anyway, thanks so much. Have a good night. And